Okay. Constance,
I
you're
got
on.
no updates. Okay, so I was responding to Erin. She had left a note on the document asking if I have some data, etc. I was talking specifically about job placement. So I actually am the one who tracks the pass rates, the on-time progression, the pass rates disaggregated, the retention disaggregated, because it's a manual process by the different type of student, because we only have one program. We have ADN, but the tracks within look a little bit different sometimes. On top of that, the job placement district sends out an alumni survey, and we usually sit in the high 90s. 98% was our last one. However, it's only based off of how many results they get back, right? The surveys. Last time the surveys were like 26. So their response rate isn't great. As a result of that, Gabe and he created a survey because we were trying to think who's the best person. Right now, the survey goes out from me. I wrote the blurb from when I was in block 4 and I had a lot of student contact. We shifted this to think, okay, who has the most contact with the students? And quite frankly, it's Gabe. Gabe from day one, Gabe all the way through. Everybody knows Gabe. They stopped and talked to him. So Gabe created a survey that he's going to send out. And in that survey, it's very specific. Hey, can you tell us, are you working as an RN, full-time, part-time? Which agency are you working for? Where, is it a hospital or outside of that? And he's got all of those questions so that we can start trying to collect better data than what the district has for us. So, and this has been an ongoing that I track those students. I start tracking the graduates. Like right now, I go through and I do a sweep. Who's got their application in? Anyone who I can't see their application in the Board of Nursing portal, I then reach out to them individually. Is there something missing? Is it a financial barrier? Because our whole goal is to make sure that they are testing within 3 months of graduation. Like, if possible, that's what we want. And then I find out whatever their issues are. Sometimes they didn't pay like the Pearson view. Sometimes they are having a fiscal issue. Some have accommodations because a lot of individuals are not aware that there are actually accommodation processes for the NCLEX. And so I help get them to where everybody has got an application on file. As soon as final grades go in, okay, block 4 puts in those final grades. At midnight, it updates. I've got somebody in admissions and records, Jeremy. He goes through and he does the first sweep. He makes sure that each one of those individuals actually has all requirements that they need to grant them their degree. Once he does it, he approves them in the board on the education side, contacts me, and then I go through and give final approval. I track every single one of those things. I track every single date that I do it, the dates that I reach out to the students. Because if we do have outlying students, like some semesters we had students that don't test for a year, 2 years, and they do want to know why. And so I have all of that data tracked as well, including the people who never sat for their test ever. We have people who have gone through, not recently, but at the beginning of our data, we may have to speak to some of that. And then we just keep track of them. I get reports weekly on Monday that tell me who is tested, when they tested, and if they passed. That's how it's all tracked. Did you think I didn't have a tracking mechanism?
Oh no, I knew you did. I knew you did. I asked Marilyn first, like, we'll look in the standard folder. There's nothing in the standard folder. I went and chatted with Eric real quick. There's one document in standard folder.
Oh, that's not your fault that there's nothing in that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, like there's one document and it's got like 3 different tables on it. So I went and I asked Eric, I was like, how do we collect all this stuff? And he's like, we don't really. And I was like, I'm pretty sure we do.
We have to.
Yeah, we have to.
I've been reporting that to the Board of Nursing, at first monthly and then quarterly for the past 2 years. Yeah. I also
it's recorded in the meeting minutes.
Yeah.
For block 4. Sorry, Constance.
Well, it's not only block 4, but it's in our department meeting minutes. I put it in there. So it's something that exists. But we track it, not I track it, me, myself, because the spreadsheet has a lot of personally identifying information of all of the students. And I'm the only one as it sits right now, me, Gabe, Michelle, and Jave are really the only ones who have a need to access all of those records for all the students at any time. Yeah,
that makes sense.
And they, even when we give it to the Board of Nursing, some of that they're not going to be able to see until they get there. I can, and that's the part where once you guys write up your stuff, I'm going to go back in and fill in any blanks, and I'll do it in a different color. So you guys, because I always do it on review when I start writing, and you'll see anything that I've added, because there's the things that I do that are administrative in nature.
Right.
The big thing with the faculty is, do we talk about it?
Yeah.
The big thing, do we talk about it? And our ELAs are set by me for the program, end of program student learning outcomes, because they're completely dependent upon the Board of Nursing and Accreditation. They tell us what our job placement, our on-time retention, and our pass rates have to be. The other two, things like the HESI exit, which is going to be great for you guys. I'm talking with Mark Serrar right now in IR. We just got all of our data files from 2017 to present on all HESI exams. And so Mark is going to start working on rebuilding our dashboard. If you haven't seen what that dashboard is, go to the PC assessment website and you'll see nursing outcomes. And if you click on it, it shows all of our exit HESI, how many students performed at 850 or above or less in each of our 10 end of program student learning outcomes.
Okay. I needed that. I was looking because the table that we have linked in there didn't have it. So I did start pinging things.
Yeah, no, he is working on that. It is something that I had to manually do. I had to go through each student's individual report and pull their data related to these 10 different items, hand calculate it, and enter a score. I can't. And so I asked Mark and IR, can they please start working on this for me? And just this morning, all that data showed up. So
Yay.
He'll start working through it. I told him to let us know if it's not what he needed to replicate it. But then that dashboard for the nursing outcomes, when it's like, how do you share this out with your stakeholders? It lives on the public PC assessment website.
Okay. I just have to find the link then for that, because that answers questions I had when I was going through the stuff yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like, I can't finish this right up yet.
I just pinged Constance to put the link in.
I ain't putting nothing in. No.
I can't find it.
It's
I
on the
can't either right now.
PC assessment website.
I'm Googling on our PC site. It's not pulling it up.
Just go to assessment. Look for the data one then.
In service.
Yeah, I know. Please. I'm on the employee page.
I'm sharing the document.
No, it's not the employee page.
I'm on the plain page.
So on that main page right there.
Mm-hmm.
Data. Go to the search bar. Off it, type in, nope, don't need Phoenix College, just put in planning and research. Office, click on that one. Now over on the side, on the left, see where it says PC Analytics?
Oh, okay.
And dashboards, planning, go to dashboards. Nursing learning outcomes.
Oh, okay.
So this is the data that I have to hand calculate, but he is, oh, you got to log in. And once she
So
logs
does that
in,
mean it's not actually public facing then if you have to log in?
well, we never had to log in before, but who knows with Thompson. So this is what it'll
Okay.
look like for us once they get everything in.
It's so pretty.
It is pretty.
Mhm.
And it's very specific to the different, all of our end of program learning outcomes. It will have all the data from 2017 on. And then we can actually see how many are we performing overall. They'll show the difference when you hover over them. You can see, like, it'll start giving you, you can go up to the top by block.
Okay, yay.
So you could just look at 4 if you're looking at the end of program outcome,
Mhm.
right? Because that's our exit HESI.
Yeah.
This is how we set the ELAs for that, because I think somebody had asked me about that. Who sets the ELA?
Mhm.
So this is, we're setting these ELAs based on how many of them we would expect to see.
So, and these are the specific ones. Is there the overall one too?
Nope. Because the mean and median doesn't matter. It's, I mean, if we do it by the mean, each one of these is set to how many of them are above the 850 mark. The mean is not an appropriate indication of what our students are doing. Because if we have a really high performer, it doesn't speak to the 20 of them that need further preparation.
Yeah. But what I mean is I'm not seeing, so these are just the individual ones, the categories, but the breakdown of number of students above the 850 period.
That's what's actually pulling this. They are taking, behind the scenes, they are taking, see the down there, the percentage of students above. They take the individual data sets from each of the students who perform. They pull the specific categories that feed into these out of their summary reports. And that gives us here how many of them are greater than the 850. We track how many students we have. You look like you don't understand.
No, what I'm missing is the number, just the overall score. So like when I was looking at it yesterday, I had to go into their summary report to count how many of the students were above the 850 and below the 850 for that base one. And then this is the individual, all 10 learning outcomes together.
You don't have to do that. Why would you do that when it's right here?
Because that's what our ELA actually says is the number above 850, not a number above 850 in informatics or the number above 850 in cost communication.
That's what each one of them, this is what it used to look like right here. We would do all 10 of them. Because I did not know if we were going to be able to pull this data from HESI to get this back, and I was not manually calculating. All we did was switch the ELA to an overall in anticipation of not being able to get this. Now that we know that we've got it, it'll go back to the way we reported it in 2017. The whole goal of doing it this way is that we are evaluating all 10 of our outcomes every single semester.
Yeah. So, okay, so let me make a couple notes then, because that probably needs to go into our write-up.
Oh, no, we don't need it in the write-up anymore
No.
because we were
But we weren't sure.
No, we were manually doing it because we didn't have, didn't know that we could get this again. So that's why I was asking for the number. Now that we have this, we don't need that anymore.
We don't need the overall number anymore. Like if people want to do it, I've got those. But you don't have to go into each individual student. The mean is the mean overall.
Yeah.
And I have each of those. But the mean really didn't give us any valuable data. It would look like we always met our ELA.
No, you had to manually adjust that. Like the one
Mhm.
report I found, I was able to put that in, but. Okay.
You good or still processing?
Probably still processing and might have to wait until he finishes his stuff and then we'll be able to look at that.
Well, it'll look the same as this right now. So,
Yeah, we just don't have the numbers right now.
right. But I mean, that's a really quick add once he pulls that data in there. I can tell you how many people took every test. Because we have ongoing student rosters since this entire data period. And I haven't gotten into this to see what all he has sent us yet, because I wanted Mark to get into it first.
Good.
He says he's crossing fingers, it has everything we need.
Yeah, and just for some context, it took a lot to get this done. Like, it was a process. So
Sure.
the fact that we had the manual stuff there was really necessary just until this could get put back in order.
Yeah.
So it was, your like process makes sense based on the fact that we didn't know we'd get this. You know what I mean, Corinne?
Yeah.
Yeah, your process totally makes sense. All right, so now that we know where this is, I put the link in the meeting minutes so you can find it.
And then the other end of program outcome is the multi-patient scenario.
Mhm.
We have the big three and then the two that we have, which is HESI exit and their performance on multi-patient. Because again, multi-patient should map to all of our outcomes.
Mhm.
This is the only way we could figure out, because quite frankly, having 10 outcomes is ridiculous. Why Maricopa Nursing did that is insane to me, but they did. And, you know, with our student demographic, everything shifts so quickly. What we found in previous data years was that it was really difficult to only focus on 2 at a time, because then we spent so much time there, all the other ones would drop off, you know?
Mhm.
But so we had to figure out something that captured every single one of these, and those were our 2 ways. I also had them pull in, I asked them for the OB and PEDS data from when we were doing, when we first started the OB and PEDS 100% sim pilot, so that we will have that to show effectiveness of. Even though I know Marilyn was tracking it, I don't necessarily think that Eric was. And that's just going to be in relation to, you know, the simulation and clinicals, which is it's not this one, but it's data that'll get pulled in from the HESIs. Sorry, now I'll shut up and you guys can do your thing.
No, it's important updates.
Like I said, this one is my jam. Standard 5 used to be standard 6. This is usually one that I do on my site visits. Plus, I just love data.
Well, it helps because it takes emotions out of stuff.
Sure does. Data's
Nobody
just
could get
data.
butt hurt because the data don't lie, you know?
It sings to my acoustic.
All right, so let's kind of go through each one. Joseph, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Which standard did you pick? You're on mute, dear friend.
Let me check because I don't remember.
Because I didn't, I might have missed an email that you mentioned.
5.1 with Corinne.
Okay. So are you doing B and E or?
That I'm not sure because I wasn't sure how it was split. So I was gonna talk with Corinne about that.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a little note here for you guys to clarify,
Mhm.
okay?
I mean, if she's doing the A, C, D, F, of course, then I can definitely do the other one. So
all right, so we still need 5.2. To be covered. Okay, Kristen, I think is in clinical. All right, so Corinne,
I
go
can
ahead.
still step in and help with some of these. I am still faculty. I just can't do the majority of the writing.
I think we just gotta get clear which one Kalichi is doing.
He hasn't answered me, which I'm worried that maybe either he's in something and I'm not aware because I'm not
Or
looking
he's
at,
asleep.
or he's asleep because he did a night shift clinical. Like I don't.
Yeah. All right, so I'll ping him directly in here. Okay, and then I'll ask Kristen to provide an update. Okay, so let's start going through them each. So I guess because I think Josefa, you also added a little stuff there into the first A through A, C, D, and F. Maybe you guys want to give us an update of where you're at and what you need?
I started pinging people so on our department meeting when we have our link to our ASIN data, there are items missing in the ASIN data. So a lot of that is not always necessarily there. I found, there's a couple questions about how we talk about like the exit HESI and stuff. And I know we briefly mentioned it, but I can't find, because I remember us talking about it in meetings with the whole group, so all the blocks. However, I'm having a hard time finding proof of that discussion in our meeting minutes. So I was looking, because I'm like, usually that happens at the end of the semester. So I was looking for like last May's department meeting, because that would have made sense. Probably would have been when we discussed it, but we don't have that. So I pinged Gabe to ask if we have something. So I'm still kind of digging into where we have that. On our meeting minutes, we also say that we should be filling out the data weekly.
Yeah.
But that's not really happening. So we probably need to have a discussion of what is realistic that needs to, like, is it once a month at your department meetings and everyone's going to go in and double check it? Some blocks are better than others. So I pinged a few different people on that data sheet because I can't really write up what we've done without the stuff there. So then I'm trying to go into some of their department meetings, but so I've started putting things on our crosswalk and making some notes.
So
Yeah,
if I could provide some guidance, Corinne, all these conversations started happening last semester.
I know.
So these are accountability pieces here, and it doesn't help to ping Gabe around proof of discussions. You gotta ping the block.
No, that was for the department meetings. I pinged Gabe to see if we had a
Okay, got
department
it.
meeting minutes for May, because I can't find our department meeting minutes where we would have talked for all of us. I pinged, so for instance, block 4 on that data sheet, the SEP tab for them isn't filled out.
and that's their responsibility.
So I pinged them on that one,
And also the other
asking
part
for
of
that,
it,
because we don't have any data on there for their HESI, for their final.
Mhm.
The Swift
They have
River
to get,
one, I've been doing most of that data, so I'll put that there. But
they need to do it. It's their
there's
responsibility.
nothing in there, including no actions, like what did they do at XYZ?
The other part too that I did, Corinne, is I met with every single block
Mm-hmm.
at the first 2 weeks of the semester and made them assess their outcomes and establish their ELAs. So
Yeah.
when you go into the block meeting minutes, that's what I missed you because I didn't hear you say you were looking for department meeting minutes. In the block meeting minutes, you'll see the HESI data on there. And I asked
Yeah.
them to make a separate meeting that was just that so that we're not combing through because that's the expectation of ASIN.
And there's nothing in those SCP meeting minutes folders for the blocks. Because I actually went into that folder to see the meeting minute, to see if I could get in the meeting minutes specifically for that, so I could pull that in. Because I know they should be, I'm certain they're talking about this at their, but to try to find that piece. So there was
So-
actually nothing in any of the folders for the SCP meeting minutes folder.
Did you ask them?
Not yet, I just, when it was going in there, so I'm gonna,
Yep.
working
I
on
need, yep, I need you to reach out, ask them,
Yep.
and CC me on it. Because when we
Okay.
have large chunks of data that people were responsible for and they are not participating in this process, that becomes an administrative issue versus
Okay.
a faculty issue. Because it's creating more burden and work for everybody. And just because, and I know people are tracking it because everyone has their own internal tracking sheets and things like that that they're using.
They're just not
Um,
all in our shared space.
Right. Because they have student names associated with a lot of their converse. Like there's some stuff, again, and it can be open for discussion, but it's their responsibility to get it. It's not ours to data mine for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
like,
yeah, the big overreaching ones are not all for everybody.
yeah, and I would say too, Corinne, to give you some support, like, I don't know what else needs to happen at this point because it's been reiterated. I have met with the individual blocks. I don't agree with a monthly thing or let's figure out what's sustainable because nothing's happening. So I don't know, that's me being a little sassy about it. So somebody clock me because I'm like,
No, they just need to
Okay.
provide the information and it has to be demonstrated that they're speaking about it. And if they're not, then they have to provide us with a plan that they are going to use moving forward to address this gap in their block. Because that's exactly how it'll be written. I will not write anything that is not true.
Yeah.
Nothing will get submitted by me if they are not doing it and they are not following a process, if they are not taking meeting minutes, whatever that is, that's going to fall to them. And then, okay, now we're going to move forward from this point. What are you going to do to address it? And if people are actually not collecting the things that I told them they needed to be collecting, that's an even bigger issue because we will get dinged on number 5. And there's a chance where they may have a finding on us as a result of it. So I sure hope people have been collecting it because this isn't the first time I've asked about it. We've been on probation for
No.
2 years.
Well, and it's on the link to the document is on our department meeting
Yep.
minutes.
And that's why I kept it there so nobody can say I didn't know.
So yeah.
at what point do we bring Ty into the conversation?
Not until after I'm done with the.
Okay.
Because don't forget, I also have a program review that is due for Phoenix College this year as well. So I have and a lot of that data is required for me to be able to do the program review for Phoenix College that is then going to our district. Like we have to be tight on this stuff. I also just found out that they're going to take all the program reviews, put all like programs together and start analyzing at the district level program outcomes.
Real quick, Corinne, when you pinging people, are you giving them a deliverable due date?
So to be completely honest, I just yesterday was really my big deep dive into starting
Okay,
into
sounds
it.
good.
So I'm starting on that. I am not at I've completed my write-up process, but that is
Got it.
my next, like today is our last sim. That is like my all next week. So I might be working from home to avoid the interruptions for as much as I can.
And that's totally fine. You know, this is important work. We don't exist if we don't have this accreditation, because the Board of Nursing in Arizona states that we must be accredited.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like some states where you can operate with just a program approval from regulatory board. You know, like California, a lot of their community colleges are just now getting initial accreditation because it wasn't a requirement. In the board in Arizona, it is a requirement that we maintain accreditation. And like I said, I'm happy to help. If you're like, I don't know where to go with this, tag me in. You know, I don't want anyone to feel like they can't use me as a resource just because I know me, and I don't want to take, I've told Marilyn this as well. I don't want to step into a space and take over and just start doing, because that would be my natural inclination. And I want everybody to get a deeper understanding of ASIN, because then everybody gets a deeper understanding of why I ask the things that I ask sometimes, why I suggest the things that I suggest. They're not just coming to me as a whim, they're actually tied to a lot of the requirements that we have. And if you know, I know everyone has a thing about spreadsheets, but spreadsheets are one of the easiest ways for us to collect data in a meaningful way so that I can use it to create tables and graphs, etc. You know, I can't do that out of Word as easily. So that's where the spreadsheets come in. And the workbooks, like my graduate, I actually have a workbook of graduates, and it has the graduating groups every semester for years, and they just keep getting updated. I add another tab, pull them over, so that I have historical data that if I ever needed to actually pull a really strong graph out of it, I would be able. But I don't know what other process will work for collecting data other than this, because we've tried. Okay, only do it at the end of the semester, then everyone scatters. They have some CSV files, but they've never done anything with it. There were no meeting minutes. You know, during the probation period, yeah, I needed it weekly because it was our pass rates. So we had to capture at risk early, often, intervene, regroup. There may be a happy medium somewhere between that, and I just don't know what that is, because we've spent the past 2 years on probation with another set of requirements for reporting.
Yeah.
Normally, I report to the board once a year. I report to ASIN once a year, and then we go on our big accreditation and program approval cycles.
I have a question for 5.1B. It's per block. Is that the information we're looking for?
So the SCP per block, that's why I was looking in their SCP folder for the meetings. We'll probably have to go into there's a table on our table that has the SCP per block. Some of the blocks have it filled out really well. So there is data there, but then they should also have it in their meeting. So it's either going to be in their big meeting minutes, which is my guess, is they put it there instead of the separate meeting that Marilyn had mentioned, because there's nothing, or they just haven't put the separate meeting minutes into the actual SCP folder because they're keeping it in their own folder.
Okay, so like every time we have, like, the block has a meeting, that part should be like a separate meeting, or like that they're working on it. Is that what I'm understanding?
It's the easiest way to have them separated. So your regular block meetings are your block meetings to discuss your current semester curriculum, things you're going to be doing moving forward. But once you collect the data of your final exam, the lab evaluations, your HESI data, right? Your block one team should be looking at all of that and trying to go, okay, out of our 10 outcomes, is there an area that is weak? What do we see? What have we done? Do we need to make any modifications? That SEP talk directly correlates to the ELA that you have created internal in your block.
Okay, so because
Yeah.
I remember Marilyn came to our meeting at the beginning and we did like a separate meeting.
Yeah.
And we worked on that data sheet. And then so we'll have another meeting for that at the end of the semester as well.
There
And
you
that
go.
could be why there's nothing in there at this point, is because
And
the end
so
of
every
semester stuff
block
hasn't happened.
should be doing that.
Every single block should be doing that at the end. They should be reviewed as soon as that, like right now, block 2, they've already taken their med-surg HESI because they do both. While one of them is for Proctor, that med-surg one is really important for us because we recognize we have a higher attrition rate. We have to be able to address why. Why is their med-surg, performing the way it is? So technically, block 2 should have 2. Because they get their med-surg data first and then they get their psych data at the end.
Okay.
But they have to be talking about what does this mean, especially because med-surg is the bulk of the points in block 2. That's one of the reasons they choose to still give that med-surg one to kind of get a gauge. We also look at it, another step. Are they talking to block 1 about those students? Like, are they still trending in the same manner? Did they have a drop from fundamentals? Like there are bigger conversations that we can have and then the individual ones. But it's vastly different than your day-to-day, like how'd that lab go? What kind of hours should we be looking at? Textbooks, like that's
different.
Yep.
Okay. That's what I was wondering what that was for. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And honestly, that should be the easy part because every single one of these block like type meetings and stuff, Gabe and I, for 3 years, we have to take every single one of these and turn them into PDFs and upload them into the repository. And if anything's missing, I'll know over the summer, probably July is when they'll start hitting me up, the team chair will, and will start asking me, hey, the team has done a first sweep and where's this, and this. If it's not in here, we're going to be in trouble because none of you work over the summer. So I have to know that everything that we need is in there. And if we just missed it, otherwise I'm going to be hunting for data that could be in locked files that I don't have access to is going to really impact us. As soon as something like that happens, when they show up, they're going to expect to see it. That's what we don't want to have happen. We just want to highlight all the great work that everyone's doing when they get there. We don't want to be trying to provide data and tease out if we're doing the things we said we were. We want to give them the information.
And to help speak to that too, the conversations were happening and people were recording it in their block meeting minutes. That was what was happening. And so when we set the expectation in May or last semester, the goal was to do it, but then nobody did it again. So that's why I met with each individual block and made them do it in that meeting. So we at least had one. Then I scheduled everybody's and the semester ones to make sure that they get it done. Do you see what I mean? So I don't know, Constance, if this is legal, but if people did that in previous meetings, can they just add those meeting minutes into the SLO because at least it demonstrates it was discussed?
Yeah, it's okay if there was a change in the way somebody was tracking, gathering, discussing. We just that's where the narrative comes in. We talk about it here. You'll notice that there was a workflow change. They used to have them in one meeting. It was hard to track. They separated it into 2. And that will also help them explain to the ASIN reviewers, whoever's assigned to this particular standard, where to look for it. And we would say, you'll find it in meeting minutes by block, And then for this year, it moved to these SPE, that's where that narrative piece comes to explain how have we evolved, changed, modified. Very, very few programs have had everything perfect the whole time. And we have the other aspect of it. We have primarily all new faculty.
Mhm.
So for the past 3 years, we
So
have
that
been
could even
learning.
be part of that narrative, right? Is that
Absolutely.
there has been some turnover and change, so some things have been difficult, so this is now our current process.
Yeah, absolutely. We had people who left and they took data with them. They weren't collecting it, we speak to. This is one of the reasons that we no longer have them within our organization. And we can very clearly articulate that the majority of our faculty are 3 years and under.
Mhm.
So it speaks to, one, we have to mentor them into the education environment while only a few people are holding data, which has been me, right? Or Marilyn.
Mhm.
That's why we were holding it. And as people begin, Gabe came in, Javay came in, all of those things. Then as people start realizing what their roles were and they had been mentored and oriented, then stuff started leaving from me and going to other people to start tracking, right?
Yeah.
You're tracking simulation. We've got lab stuff being tracked over here. Like, it started to tease out, but that's the narrative. That's the story that we tell of our program in the past 3 years. And that is totally okay. They would rather see that than see gaps or us not addressing what our story looked like, because I think it's a pretty powerful narrative.
Yeah, and don't forget, and in the pandemic, we had 14 faculty. We have 4 retire. 4. Okay. We had 3 separate for not performing. Do you see what I mean? To
Yeah.
And then we had 2 that did not make it past their probationary year. So we literally had 6 faculty, right? It's been part of the process of the data around faculty that I've been collecting and why it's taken me a year and a half to get people's files caught up.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And part of why we've exited so many adjuncts for not being compliant with data. You could be wonderful, but if you can't, you're not, that's a part of your job. Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
we do have a this much grace, but that's why we did it this way. Like, people gotta nail down that data now.
Yeah, because I am going to make sure that I speak to our faculty. Like, there's a piece in there that when I describe, there's going to be an intro section into it that I will probably write and give to you guys so that it'll speak and set up the rest of that standard in the way that the ASIN directors and evaluators and ERP panel, which is the second level, is going to look at it. Because things have changed now. We will not know at the end of our visit a recommendation. They have taken that away. Before, it used to be, we are going to recommend reaccreditation. There's no areas of opportunity. All of that's gone. They do
we
not.
know how long it'll take before we'll get that?
It can take 8 to 12 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And so I won't even know. Like, I won't know. None of us will know. They will simply go down the standard. They read a single sentence and it's done. So we just want to make sure that we have it as tight as we possibly. But that's why I'll go in and give that introductory narrative kind of overall statement for the standard. And then we start getting into the subsections. I'm going to try and get my storytelling on.
This is important, and I think that it gives, some grace, but it also, tells the story, so I think that's great. Okay, so Constance, I pinged you to confirm.
Okay.
Just to confirm that data of what happened there. But I
Okay.
can also write it in standard 2 and then they can refer to it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna add that in here.
Yeah, because it's actually a part of our Board of Nursing report.
Okay. In standard 1 or 2. All right, so I just put that as a note so we don't forget.
And I'm gonna
Okay.
be doctor by the time we put this in, y'all.
Doctora.
Yay.
All right, Josefa, so you asked a question about per block. What other questions can we answer for you?
The only other one was for within E, it's just looking for that data in that file, right? Making sure it's in there
Okay.
for 5.1 E.
Yeah. So that to me looks like
Or
and
is that
I'm-
like stuff that they used in there, like the HESI report and the other stuff, depending on their.
That's if it's documented. That's that action piece, like how are they actually analyzing it and making the recommendation? I think.
Oh, so like if you go to that file that we use.
Yeah, so their SEP tab,
Yeah,
they
where
have their
have, like,
goals.
narratives and stuff.
Yeah, so then they had like, what was
Okay.
it? And
Okay.
then over here in their notes should have, like block 2's is really pretty filled out too. Where you can see each semester.
Okay. I think
What
yeah, I
they've
think that was
done.
the other one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll look through all of that. And then we'll start reaching out to everyone.
Mhm. And this one kind of goes hand in hand with the SCP meetings.
Yes. So
Yeah,
I
'cause-
will, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Go back to our meeting minutes. There. Pathway. Data. This has notes and the context.
So like realistically, they could have a very short set of meeting minutes where they've got that linked in there and they're saying, okay, this is the discussion, recommendations found on the tab.
Mm-hmm. And our
like,
workflow.
in our spreadsheet.
Yeah, and our workflow, because we got to give this PDF to them.
Mhm.
So the workflow was that we identified that we could not find it because it was all over the place. And so we required that they make one meeting where they address everything. So that was the process.
So one meeting at the beginning and one at the end, at
Yep.
minimum, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was only at the beginning of the semester because it wasn't in everybody's workflow to do it at the end of the semester.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you see
Okay.
what I mean? So it
Yeah.
will be going forward at the end of every semester. But because we
Okay.
didn't have anything, I made everybody do it so we could have something
Yeah.
and establish the workflow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. And part of that is related to the fact that we've got a lot of new people in over the last couple of years. Everyone's been learning their process and how
Yes.
do you work this and
I
what
mean,
are we
yeah,
doing?
I only
Right.
realized that we had to have meetings for that until this semester. So
Yeah, but and that's fine. You guys were learning how to teach. And that's why the conversations about HESI and program outcomes stayed at the bigger level. Because imagine if you were trying to also adapt to this in your first year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already pretty complicated now in
Yeah.
my 30.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, ASIN is very aware. They're all nurses. They are all in academics, and so they have an understanding of what it takes. And just the fact that we have the end of program outcomes that we do with such a novice faculty speaks volumes about our program. Like that, I want you guys to hear. It speaks to the strength of our program. It speaks to the supports that we have for us to have those outcomes with novice faculty.
Okay.
Huge. Guys, I have to step off.
Oh my
I
God, it's
have
already
to-
10.
Yeah, I gotta get into the RFAC town hall. If you guys, I highly recommend, you are all residential faculty, that if you can, you step into it. It has to do with changes to your contract. Suggested changes.
Erin, are you okay with putting in your notes around any needs or questions you have?
Oh,
Bye.
Oh,
So we
yeah,
can all
I-
jump in the RFA.
Yeah, I'm good. And plus she answered all my stuff at the beginning, so I just
Okay.
have to get a hold of those tables and plug it in, so.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, so can you just add that in? You're just getting
Yeah.
a hold of tables, questions answered. Okay,
Yep.
I'll just put that in there. And thank you, chicas, for everything. Y'all are amazing.
Mhm.
At Erin. See you later. Thanks. Bye.
I don't know where my exit button is. Oh, there it
Oh,
is.
bye, mama. Oh, I gotta stop the recording.